Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Um, See some people we haven't had in a couple, so really appreciate you guys joining. So, like for the last couple, I don't know, a couple months, really, the news coming out of the FAA on remote ID and stuff like that has been very sparse. And Dave's been doing a lot of great work with the DAC, which I'm sure he'll cover in a little bit. Um, but all in all, with a lull in what's happening from a regulatory, we've been sharing a lot of news happenings in regards to drones and UAS. So obviously, as we were just discussing, we had a Major League Baseball game delayed by an unauthorized drone hovering over the field. And apparently, this caused quite a stir. Obviously, the stadiums are empty due to COVID right now. I was actually flipping through the channels last night and came across a hockey game, and it was bizarre watching, a sporting event with nobody in the stadium. But, somebody was obviously interested in what was happening at the field because they decided to fly, it looks like a Mavic, um, over the field, and it caused a delay. So apparently, the pitchers tried to take out the drone by throwing baseballs at it. That didn't quite work. Um, and then after a while, the drone left, and they continued playing.
I
Uh,
think I heard someone describe it as the first ever drone delay for a Major League Baseball game. I mean, they've rain delays and other things, but now we have
right.
drone delays.
So yeah, and the Pirates actually tweeted in the article. There's a tweet. Um, we are in a drone delay. We don't know. American League Baseball is weird. So go them for actually taking it in stride. But yeah, all in all, pretty interesting experience that happened there. Alex, I would probably agree. Any kind of interference with an aircraft would be tantamount to same as shooting a drone out of the sky. However, as FAA rules, it's due to FAA rules. Baseball, football, big sporting events are all restricted airspace from an hour before to an hour after the game. Um, but the uh, the actual risk to anybody was probably very minimal, considering the stadium was empty.
It is,
So
yeah, interesting that they still do the TFRs even though it's an empty, well, a mostly empty stadium. Way, way
right,
less numbers of people than would normally be there.
yeah, for sure.
And like
Um,
TextJet said, is about shooting down an airplane. We had somebody shoot down a drone in Minnesota as well just a couple months ago, and I think they're still getting in trouble for that.
as they should. I think that interference with any type of aircraft should be a big deal, and we've seen case after case over the last couple of years of people actually getting away with doing that, and that's a bad deal. So was it the right thing to do to fly over the ballpark? Probably not. Trying to take it out is probably not a right thing either. So two wrongs don't necessarily make a right, but at any rate, drone delay, it happened. Mark that down in your 2020 fantastic events, and you know, go from there. I thought this was really cool. So this is a UAS developed by Swift Engineering and partnered with NASA that can potentially fly for up to 30 days. Um, in one shot. So it weighs, I think they said 100 pounds. If I can get in here, it's a 72-foot solar powered, weighs 180 pounds, and can fly a 10 to 15-pound payload. Uh, and operate at an altitude of 70,000 feet, which is,
What?
yeah,
70,000?
70,000 feet for 30 days or more.
Air's a little
Uh,
thin there.
yep.
Wow.
Well, yeah. So it's pretty incredible. Let's see. Current Current NASA science aircraft can meet most, but not all, observing system requirement. It can provide unique data to complement and improve NASA measurements from orbit. Developing the Hail with Swift has opened up more possibilities than we initially imagined. And they just successfully flew it for I think 2 hours. It was a 2 hour flight. Uh, let's see. They had to research and develop solar panel and battery technologies that could provide enough power to stay aloft at night until it can recharge its batteries the next day. And the cells also need to retain high power capacity after several recharging cycles. And it needs to withstand harsh temperatures, radiations, and other conditions of the upper atmosphere.
Well, I suppose if you're up
Uh,
that high, you don't have to worry about cloudy days. You're up above them all.
Correct. Way
It's
above the
always
clouds.
sunny.
That's
right.
it.
Let's see. They are expecting to be able to use it to uh, work with satellites, whereas most satellites, or I'm not going to say most. A lot of satellites are geo God
Synchronous.
geosynchronously locked. Yeah. Um, the This aircraft, the Hail, can provide better coverage over a region. They can could do things like air quality monitoring, coastal zone imaging, mapping for landslides, real time forest and agricultural monitoring, or also for disaster relief efforts. Yeah, it kind of does sound like a spy plane too. Um, so the payload is just enough, I would imagine, 10 to 15 pounds for a very nice camera system. In fact, they do mention that they took NASA's Fluid Cam and put it on there. It's a high frame rate video camera coupled with artificial intelligence processing capable of providing unprecedented observations. Um, Pretty interesting little guy with pretty much an unlimited range, assuming you can control it. So all that with a 10-pound payload. Yes. Very tiny payload. Um, so in case that wasn't weird enough, check this out. This kind of brings back old memories of a somewhat crappy film. I don't know if you guys remember the film Stealth. Well, where they had an AI kind of drone super plane kind of thing that went AWOL and just started going all over the place and destroying things. Four defense companies have been selected to begin work on the U.S. Air Force's Skyborg program. So, poor choice of name, I would say. But Boeing, General Atomics, Kratos, and Northrop Grumman have all
Grumman.
been Grumman have all been selected to move forward on the program, and they are going to be creating a autonomous airplane intended for reusable unmanned aerial vehicles, and teaming up with manned missions. So basically, it would basically fill in a squadron. So you'd have three planes up that were manned, and then you'd have one of these Skyborgs join your team. Um, they are designed to be cheap so that the significance of losing one is not great. Um, and they also are basically calling it the R2D2.
Yeah, it seems strange to call it
Okay.
R2D2 when they've got the name Borg from Star Trek
Right.
in the name and not Star Wars, but whatever.
Hey,
They can
not
mix their
everybody's
sci-fi.
yeah, not everybody's got their sci-fi
It's like a
thing. So
combination of Skynet and Cyborg into the Skyborg. This sounds like a terrifying combination, right?
I'll be back.
Right.
They're using all the names. Yes. Well said. Well said.
Crazy. So, God forbid AI decides we're not worthy, but we'll have a bunch of planes equipped with AI and out there with stuff on them. So hey, that's super cool. This was interesting. This comes out of Israel. As I've said before, Israel has some interesting innovations happening with drones. This is one of them. They're calling it the Spider-Man Urban Assault Drone. So to me, it looks like a normal FPV quad. In fact, I believe the battery strap on it actually says Banggood. So hey, there's that. Plug to Banggood right there. So this comes out of the Israeli Defense Force Ghost unit. And they just completed its first major exercise, video exercise. A video of the exercise, and there's a link in the article, gives a glimpse of the unusual new drone, a quadcopter which flips over, sticks to a vertical wall, and hangs there before flying off and leaving an object still attached. So
a little side note about the Israeli Defense Force. When you're in high school, of course, Israel has conscription, and so when you are in high school, you test, and if you test really well, you're offered higher positions in the IDF, schooling to the tune of completing a bachelor's, our equivalent in college by the time you're done with high school. Consequently, many of the IDF people in their computer science parts of the Israeli Defense Force are brilliant computer scientists, and they contribute when they get out of the service in industry, and they are renowned. So this is good stuff. They are a smart bunch.
They are. So the role of the Spider-Man drone is not explained or described. In the same video sequence, troops use a DJI Maverick, a low-cost consumer drone, to scout ahead in urban alleyways. The IDF have been using Mavic since 2017 as an alternative to the more expensive military-grade drones. So they go on to discuss, obviously how it could be used to potentially place a breaching charge. Looks like to me he's using a Tyrannus in one of the pictures there to control the drone. And the other in the video, I actually watched the video. It doesn't show it placing any. It shows it adhering to the wall and then kind of flipping down like 90 degrees. So kind of more like a perch where you can use the camera on the drone to kind of keep tabs on a space, which absolutely makes sense. And then they go on to talk about in 2008, DARPA explored the similar technology for a stealthy, persistent perch and stare. So where they could fly a drone into an area, kind of perch it anywhere, and allow it to be kind of like a portable CCTV. You'd only have the initial noise of the landing, essentially, or moving into the area and the landing. And then after that, obviously, it could go motors off and do its thing. But um, so yeah, they don't talk a whole lot about. They do mention, obviously that it could be a block of C4 for like a breaching charge or something like that. And then they go to discuss, some of the other possible, or some of the other developments from other companies around the world. So they call the Stalker is able to drop a microphone which sticks to a roof and listens in for listening through walls. And then they talk about life detection radar using ultra wideband radio waves, which can go through walls as easily as air. And then the other one, which I thought was pretty crazy, in 2013, Israeli company can use. Let's see. they have a thing that allows, which can land on a building and scan for life. So it doesn't say how it works.
They're going to
It's not.
call it a tricorder.
Maybe, going with this rate. And then the other creepy thing is there's also been considerable interest in using Wi-Fi signals to see through people's walls. This just requires a passive antenna to pick up signals which are distorted by people moving nearby.
Oh
Like,
boy.
right? It's like now there's another purpose for that router in your house. And you never knew until now.
Easier to implement than RID. I love it.
Yep. It's crazy. All right. So enough about that. So GE's Air XOS. I'm going to assume that's how you pronounce that because I can't fathom another way of doing so. They have launches a public safety UAS platform. So apparently this is kind of in relation to remote ID somewhat and unmanned traffic management. So apparently they've been piloting this with about 200 public safety agencies, and public safety agencies would be like your police, your fire, etc.
And
So
they're one of the corporate sponsors of remote responders.
yep,
The
drone responders, you mean?
Yes, thank you. Drone responders.
Yep. And basically, this is an app that similar to something like Kitty Hawk or AirMap would
On
allow.
like Kitty Hawk on steroids. This is the UTM side,
Yeah,
whereas that's Kitty Hawk in its full blown, not what we know as the approval system, but the unmanned traffic management component
yeah.
of it. So yeah.
This would allow allow public safety agencies to monitor their UAS in real time, do remote ID, do automatic lance authorizations, all that kind of stuff without even having a public safety officer really have to do a whole lot. They basically just say, "Hey, I'm going to deploy a drone here for this reason," and it does all the it's automated, it does all the approvals and whatnot. um Arrows. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we agree.
Arrows.
This absolutely is a very significant entity in the UAS industry.
Yep.
GE is putting a significant amount of money behind this organization.
All right, so that I thought that was pretty interesting that we're seeing some of the possible flip sides of remote ID and the apps that are kind of falling in line for that. So we'll
It's
see
also
that.
one of the areas of potential significant monetization in drones is if you can become one of the UTM companies, which is
Mhm.
Verizon, GE, AT&T is interested. So this is Google is interested. So yep.
All right. So, the drone that made the first home delivery in the United States, which was the Google, is it Google Wing?
Google Wing.
Uh,
Yep.
the wing is now headed to the Air and Space Museum in DC. Oh, did I not post it? Let's see.
Yeah, because I'm sure no recreational pilot ever delivered anything with a drone before that.
Right.
That's correct.
So the delivery first happened on October 19th, 2019. So not that far back, even though it seems like 5 years from now or 5 years ago. The delivery was to let's see, 81-year-old retiree, Susie Seinsmeyer. And it was a little vest, and she was the recipient of that first delivery. So obviously, since then, drone delivery has kind of, in a small scale, kind of helped out during uh, COVID. And then you've got companies like Zipline that they are literally delivering medical supplies, vaccines, and whatnot across different regions of Africa. Um, you know, we've talked before how drone delivery in some form or another would be beneficial maybe in rural areas, but maybe not so much in city areas. But this is pretty interesting that that's going to be our representative to the Air and Space Museum, folks. There you go.
Alex, do you know where in the United States zipline is working?
I'm not sure exactly where in the United States.
North Carolina, I think it says in here.
That would make sense.
Started doing some stuff in the U.S. between hospitals.
Yep.
Let's see. Let me see if I can find
I'm
it.
thinking the UPS waiver.
Let's see. Okay. Yep. More recently, North Carolina. Drone delivery systems making test flights elsewhere in the world, such as Zipline, which is ferrying medical supplies in Rwanda, Ghana, and more recently, North Carolina, require more extensive on-the-ground infrastructure. They need a 20-foot plus launcher to catapult their fixed wing flyers skyward, and field goal style uprights to catch them. Because they are fixed wing. All right. This came across my news feed a couple days ago. It might have been on Twitter, but a Freedom of Information Act request has uncovered a group of small drones that flew around a restricted area at Palo Verde nuclear power plant. So this power plant is actually about 15 miles, maybe 20 miles from my house. It's the U.S.'s largest power plant. And they say they had 5 or 6 drones circling the 3-unit site inside and outside the protected areas. And this was back in 2017. I saw a date in here.
Yeah, I think it was 18 or 19. I think it's 19. So this was on the news, and it was all the joking about the swarm, and the government said no, we don't know anything about it. Yeah, no one. Did they identify ownership or who the operators were?
No, and they did state that they were not. They didn't appear to be like a phantom or anything like that.
Well, didn't they also say they flew for an hour or two at a time and
Right,
had really bright lights?
80 minutes.
Yeah, I
80 minutes.
like text comments. They failed the surreptitious. They were blinking lights. Failed the sneaky aspect of it. Well done.
So they did state that they didn't seem like they were phantoms, that they estimated they were over 2 feet in diameter. Flight endurance of about half an hour. That they flew for about 80 minutes. And that there was nothing they could do. And now somebody has. And this article from Forbes is just like so conspiracy theory, but they're like at the very bottom. This suggests that the intruders, as well as establishing Palo Verde lacks effective drone defenses, may now have highly detailed maps of the facility showing the exact location of every valve, pipe, switch, and control. Perhaps they simply aim to sell these on the dark web to anyone who will pay, or perhaps they have something else in mind. It's just like, bro.
Oh man.
So.
Gosh, and it wasn't a slow news week. I wonder what's going on at Forbes.
Right.
Yeah, why would a news article have to speculate about so much stuff? Why not just say what actually happened?
Well, have you met our media? Like, really? Like, let's be real here. All right. This is a very long article. Going to kind of gloss over key parts of it. But this comes from SUAS News. This also comes from, it was authored by Jonathan Ruprecht, which many may know as a lawyer with a emphasis on UAS. So this goes into drone sightings and how FAA has potentially been analyzing them, how they probably should be analyzing them, and kind of goes over the fact that reported drone sightings over time are decreasing. Um, Says the FAA has inaccurately reported on the drone sightings data, and this is proven by their own data. There are more drone sightings reported in populated areas than unpopulated areas, which absolutely makes sense because most airports or key areas where manned aircraft would be flying are going to be centralized in populated areas. There are more drone sightings reported in warmer months than colder months. Obviously, states with larger populations have more reported drone sightings. He also states there are more medium or large animal impacts with manned aircraft than all the reported drone sightings. So sightings, he goes into what sightings mean. Pilot, person on the ground, law enforcement sees a drone and reports it to the FAA, it gets logged. The drone could be lawfully flying, safely flying, or carelessly flying, or flying with criminal intent. It's all lumped into one thing, a sighting. The accuracy of the reports cannot be verified. You could report you saw a drone all you want. Nobody can check. It's literally a giant hearsay list, which has, when you go through and you're reading the sightings listings on some of this stuff, it absolutely seems like, it's like there are very few of the entries in those lists that have been verified. Where, somebody called in, they sent law enforcement to go check, they found the person, flying a drone. It's very infrequent in those reports. So he goes on to kind of break down how using the FAA's drone sightings data to inform regulations is kind of probably not the best way to go about it. They do cite how the Academy of Model Aeronautics have talked about the drone sightings data from the AMA's not drone sightings, sorry. Well, I guess they're calling it drone sightings. In AMA's previous analysis, the AMA found that 3.5% in August and 3.3% in March 2015 and 2016, respectively, of sightings included the explicit notation of NMAC, which means near mid-air collision or near miss. Our analysis of the newest 1,270 records released on February 2017 show about the same percentage of near misses. Just 3.4% of sightings contain the specific notation of a near miss. But the FAA continued to press forward with just stating raw sightings number. So they're using that to really break down or really implement regulations that are based on faulty data. So he kind of breaks down, provides some graphs. He's got sightings by state, and these sightings by state go over a 6-year period, which is pretty impressive. So states like California obviously have high. California is the highest for that 6-year period at 1,777. States like mine fall number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the list at 353, and it decreases rapidly from there. I mean, California far and away, Florida is number 2, New York's number 3, Texas is number 4, and everybody else just kind of pales in comparison, really. Let's see. Drone sightings versus large or medium-sized animal impacts. So as an example, what's the date on this? Oh, this is 2014. So you had 506 drone sightings in December of 2014 and 1,045 large or medium animal impacts. Poor animals. Let's see. New York City has the highest in terms of drone sightings for the city, New York City itself. Los Angeles is second, and it kind of just varies from there on out. So it's just interesting how he breaks down the data, and it's something that it's a good read. So here's frequently asked questions. There's a spot right at the end. How many of these drone sightings are of bad illegal drones? And obviously, the FAA or anybody cannot tell if the drones are bad, but they can tell. But we can tell if they are a safety risk. So if they come with the term in-mac or near mid-air collision, obviously that particular UAS probably posed a little bit of a safety risk. Are drone sightings going up? No, they're going down. They're decreasing. Um, so, how many of these drone sightings of drones appear to pose safety risks actually turn out to be mid-air collision? Obviously, very few. Of the small percentage of drones posing safety risks, only a small portion of them actually end up hitting an aircraft, which results in damage to the manned aircraft, ranging from minor scratches and dents to requiring a replacement or repair of an expensive portion of the aircraft. Let's see. There was another. Okay, here we go. And the FAA has obviously not cleaned all the data from all lawful flights, because when you report it, it could be a lawful flight, could be a unlawful flight. Even so, the FAA's Federal Register indicated that the FAA has processed 14,334 flights near airports and have over 6,000 authorizations in the processing queue. To date, there have been more than 170,000 approved authorizations through Lance, and this was on December 2nd of 2019. And then at the FAA 2019 FAA Symposium, a PowerPoint slide said that there have been over 37,000 manual authorizations granted and 87,000 automated authorizations granted. And that's just for flights near airports. So,
and that's just for the pilots who remembered to use Lance before they flew.
Right. But if you think about it, those are lawful flights. The FAA has, deemed those as appropriate to fly near an airport. And how many of those reported sightings were a lawful flight that the FAA authorized, but didn't clean that out of the sighting logs? You know what I'm saying? So how much of their data is really just false data or fabricated data? So really interesting article by Jonathan Ruprecht. Worth a read if you care to go through it in detail. It's about a 10-minute read. I probably spent at least that long describing parts of it, but good article for sure. And on that kind of wraps up my news for the day. I think that was a lot of good articles, a lot of good news, interesting news. Any questions, comments? Dave, what you got?
We're making progress on the safety culture tasking group. Alex here was working on the recreational team. We've submitted our drafts. I'm leading the small and commercial aspect. We had about a several-hour discussion today, so we're working toward the October Dac, and that we'll be presenting the results with recommendations. And I'm got, I think, good recommendations coming out of the recreational and the small and commercial. The enterprise group is a little late turning in their submission, so I haven't seen what they've got. And the legacy carrier, the idea being of this safety culture tasking group is what aspects of manned aviation can we carry over and use to help jumpstart the safety culture for UAS. And so the carrier legacy group subgroup has identified a number of existing aircraft and airline documentation, logging, data gathering, which will be useful for fleets of UAS, and we've been pretty clear that we feel that probably not required for recreational and not really appropriate for a small commercial, but we'll see how we make out as we go forward. So still discussing the final document, but it's going well, and all of the groups are being open-minded on receiving our minority opinions.
Awesome. Very cool. So let's see. DAC applications are due on the 18th.
Due 18 August. Yep.
And then when do they make final determination?
They don't say.
Okay.
But it is at 6 a.m. ET. But I have a hunch that they'll announce it at the Dac. So I would imagine that they're trying to shoot for the October Dac. If not, it'll be the next one a quarter later.
Gotcha. Cool. So that's something to look forward to. I know we've got Dave, and I think Zoe is applying, and apparently Alex is applying too.
Yes, he is.
Good job.
I'm gonna apply.
Hey, absolutely. I think there's 5 spots open, Dave?
Yeah, I've seen 5, then 3, then they said several. So
precise as always.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pardon, what was that?
I said if
was that Alex?
Dave, Zoe, and me, and then I think Vic Moss is also applying.
Yep.
So
yeah, good point. Yep.
that'd be
Yeah, the
So if
more
you don't know
recreational representation we can get on that committee, the better.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, Vic wouldn't necessarily be a recreational person. He's more the independent commercial operators. However, he is very obviously favorable towards recreational. So that would be fantastic as well. So a lot of good choices there. Go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say I'm gonna apply as part of an educational thing, since the one company I work for we do a teaching, so I'm gonna apply it through that route.
Right.
But my main thing is recreational.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. All right, so Dan, you got anything, bud?
No, I don't think I've got anything new. The FAA has not come out with any new regulations or anything lately, so
right.
We're still waiting for December, last I heard.
Yeah, we're waiting for that for remote ID. They said that they would potentially roll something out or roll it out by December and then implement it in 2021.
And still no news on the recreational test that we were advising on way back in January.
Has there been any communication on that whatsoever?
Yeah, not to us and not to the cohort, and that was January 14 of this year.
Yeah, and they pretty much told us that once we gave them our opinion and advice, that we weren't going to hear anything until they, release whatever they're going to do. So
yeah,
it's like, yep, thanks for your advice, and we'll take it into consideration, and you'll hear when we've got our final decision made.
Yet I've got this video of Jay Merkel saying he's working with the recreational community. I don't get it. But, hey,
different definition of working with.
Right. He must be working off a different dictionary. I'm sorry. I need to buy that dictionary. The person flying over the ball field needs to take that test. Yes, absolutely.
35 questions.
He probably made baseball more exciting. I'm not really a baseball fan, so anything besides baseball is probably more exciting. I think,
I did see comments related to that. The most exciting thing to happen to baseball in so many years or something.
I mean, really. So, all right. Well, then I guess we will wrap up early this evening. I appreciate you all joining.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Don't have Just gonna say that the second part of the symposium, if anyone wants to pay for that, that's 18-19. I'll be attending
August 18th and 19th, right?
Of this month, right? Of August.
Yep.
So
And it's available virtually.
yes,
And it is the FAA-AUVSI symposium.
And last time I was able to, Jay Merkel he ended up going into some of the virtual conversations, so there's a decent chance of being able to talk sort of one-on-one with him.
Well, that's pretty good.
So if you got any questions, send them over to Alex so he can get them answered.
Right.
Well, I'll attempt to get them answered. No promises on.
Yeah, I'm sure the answers won't be what you're hoping for anyway.
They'll just probably weave around the question, I'd assume. But
yeah, very political answers.
So, yeah, if you guys do have questions, I'll try to get some one-on-one with Jay, and I can ask him those.
So episode 2 is what they're calling it.
Right.
The industry pass would be $250 if you're government, military, public safety, or a student. You can get in for $175, or if you just want to attend one of the days, it's $150. How do you know if you only want to attend one of the days? Well, they do have a program, which I will, and it tells you what they're going to be discussing on each of the days. So let me drop that link in here too. And yeah, so if you can afford to attend.
Lots of large events also being canceled around the country. So some being held and many being canceled.
Yep.
Large national events.
For sure. So there's that too. So that's coming up in 2 weeks, looks like. So there you go.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns, ideas? Hey, I was in the right chat tonight, so that's an automatic one.
I did double check that on your first link.
Hey, I said I'd never do it again. I'm fulfilling my promise. So, all right. Well, then y'all have a great night. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, and thanks for the comments. It's always great talking to you guys. And have a good night.
Thank you. Take care.